All right. The next one I'm going to look at is the role of brand. And this is an easy one. Role of brand very simply looks at the role that brand plays when anybody makes a decision. So if you're buying cement, for an example, that sits on the left-hand side. It's a very functional thing. You'll look for an ISO stamp. If you know anything about cement, okay, that's the kind of cement I want. I'm building this, and you'll buy it. It's tough to be in a commodity-type business where your brand differentiator is quite small. So, the guys at AfriSam or the guys at PPC and other, it's a tough place to play. And of course, on the other side, the high side role of brand is very much things like tobacco products has got to be the best example where people pay a premium for something that's ultimately going to rub you out. But that's what branding is about. Sorry to the smokers there. I'm an ex-smoker, okay, I'll get over it. All right, so if you look for an example in the financial sector, plays a relatively small role of brand because, again, historically banking has been banking. We are seeing some shift in that because of trust issues, the fact that heritage in financial institutions, for an example, is no longer a differentiator because banks are big enough to fall. And certainly the American experience has shaken us up. It's probably also why banks like Capitec and others here have shaken the industry in South Africa quite a bit. And we've seen the same in Kenya. It's a bank called Equity Bank, run by James Mwangi. Same story there, changing the banking landscape. And their role of brand has become a bit more important. Okay, so role of brand answers a couple of things. It answers what percentage of the decision is due to the brand itself. So if you're buying, as we say, high luxury items versus, milk in a carton, obviously brand does not always play the highest decision in the commodity business. And with this, it allows you to have a look at certain decision factors in your brand. So, some of them are latent, some of them are functional, some of them are aspirational, some of them are tangible, some of them are intangible. And these are the reasons that you can ask yourself when you go and buy anything, is what role did the brand play when I bought that car? The BMW Mercedes argument never goes away. There are better cars, guys, in both BMW and Mercedes, but people pay a premium for those because of the intangible brand element of it. So the changing role of brand is often overlooked as a new source of value as well. The changing role of brand gives you the chance to change the company, to move the company into different areas. And it's a great leverage item around change. It also measures what is unknown. And that becomes very, very critical in the brand and marketing space. And can enhance productivity. Gives you new revenue opportunities. There's some risk mitigation, if you like, time allocation, employee engagement, great way of changing the role of brand. And ultimately moves you from this do part to what we call be. And B is where the top brands of the world seem to be sitting quite tightly, where the brand strategy, in fact, drives the business strategy and not the other way around. Now, you mentioned this to all the accountants in the house. Raise your hands. Okay. You mentioned it to the financial department. I'm joking. The finance guys obviously sometimes have a struggle with this because how can brand or marketing, which has traditionally been an expense, now become something that tells us what we should be making? You go and tell the production guys that, hey, listen, the marketing say we want to make something different and see what the response to that is like. But the best brands in the world do exactly that. And this role of brand change requires some innovation. I'll go through these quite quickly because there's a few. The unexpected. For an example, and it's great to see Zara, for an example, in South Africa. Before, clothing retail was very, very simple. And Zara came out, small little company out of Spain, and put high fashion straight from the catwalk into the shop within a period of a couple of weeks. That changed the game. I mean, it's so bloody obvious, but the guys got out there and they did it. So, a platform for change and growth, Zara was a great one. Technology, I mean, this whole idea about having a gazillion different devices, although most of us Apple guys still do, into a couple of lesser or smaller or fewer devices that can do a whole lot more. One device, one person. I think there's still a struggle here, by the way. I was talking to the guys from Apple a few days ago. Because they're not still quite sure what the iPad is about. And if anybody here knows, I'd be kind of happy to hear as well, because some of us think it's that thing between the phone and the Apple Mac, it's that thing in the middle, but it actually isn't. It's kind of a category of its own. And I think the moment they've got that sort of embedded, I think the Apple guys probably do. It's up to the rest of us to understand what it does. There's a process need as well. So, for example, Google. Google was, their gap in the market and it was absolutely stunning. I mean, they sat back and said, well, searching is the main thing. Google was built out of, slimming down a huge amount of data. Industry and market structures, the brick and mortar thing, very much the Amazon experience, that you don't have to be in every town in a shop, that you can change the way your customized experience happens for most of your customer needs, and you can now buy anything, even items that you previously thought were competitive, like digital books, etc., online. Demographics. Who knows how old MTV is? Everybody know the first song that MTV played, the first video? Okay, good. Yeah. That's it. That's exactly right. Let's check. You've got grey hair. Yeah. I mean, we all think that MTV is this new thing. It's not. It's been around for a heck of a long time. I think I actually had a note here. Trying to think what the second song is that they played, but good Lord, it was a long time ago. Pat Benatar. Okay. Well, half years don't even know who the hell Pat Benatar is, so don't pretend. But this is an organization, this is a brand that sat back and fundamentally looked also exactly what it stood for and what it does. And it opened a whole new market. Previously dismissed population, the youth, the baby boomers, that middle side of the bulge, if you like, gets exactly what it wants right now. And it's been a great brand platform, without a doubt. And then change in perception. I mean, the airlines are always an easy one to have a look at. Airlines were traditionally about efficiencies, not customers, staying in the sky when they're meant to be in the sky, etc. Versus what is now perhaps a form of differentiation. And a good friend of mine, Hedy Brow, that ran the marketing, if you like, for Kalula here as well. I mean, they also kind of got it. Flying is, you expect the damn thing to be on time, and you expect the food to be lousy, and you expect to go from A to B. But you also want a bit of differentiation. You want a bit of fun in the journey, and they certainly cracked it there. And then the last one, of course, is this closed culture thing. And we've seen organizations like Procter & Gamble that have looked at value through a sort of an innovation process where they're using more and more of the global market, global clients to inform exactly the kind of products that they actually make. And they've been quite well ahead of the curve when it comes to how consumers view their products. All right, so decisions to be made. This is a global interbrand slide. I can tell you guys that I don't necessarily agree with it, but you can't tell anybody else. Because I don't necessarily think it's an either-or. When you look at your brands, there certainly is an element of strength and there certainly is a role of brand. I think you can have a look at quite a few of these together. But the key trick right now is there needs to be some prioritization. In marketing, you can't do everything. There'll be way too much to do. You can't do it all at once. But, sort of review the measures, assess your strategy, look at your change culture, look at processes and structure from a strength point of view, because it's an easy one to leverage. And then have a look at the role that your brand plays in the market in which you operate. And out of that, you'll find some sort of prioritization matrix of what you should be spending your money on. And it's a nice matrix to run. You can kind of sit back and say, okay, does the organization have the right knowledge? And you'll be amazed. I mean, most organizations have got tons and tons and tons of research, but don't really know what the hell to do with it. If you don't, engage and go and find out what you need to know. If you do, explore. I mean, is the business doing something different? If it isn't, do some benchmarking and find some differentiation. If it is, verify, is this business ready to move? A big challenge from a branding point of view is getting organizations to behave differently. If it isn't, reposition, redefine. If it is, start confirming, engage your employees, get everybody on board, and then finally prioritize.